All right. Welcome back to the Slider Lab. This is episode 4. Now today's video is going to be my new revision for the Heisman slider set. Let's go ahead and get into it. QB accuracy. We're keeping this at 35 for the human as well as the CPU. 35 for QB accuracy. What I like about this setting is, as I said in my previous video, in the All-American slider set video, this setting, anything between 35 and 40, is going to let you see the great quarterbacks compared to the bad and the average guys. We want to put a difference between those guys. Another thing we want to do with this QB accuracy slider, we want to make it a bit more difficult to complete long passes and those intermediate passes. Unfortunately, when you set their slider so low, it makes it a little bit harder to throw on a run. So try to make sure your feet are set before you throw long passes. It doesn't really affect it as much when you're throwing those passes to the flat, when you're running outside the pocket trying to get away from pressure and you just want to get it to your outlet real quick. You can still throw pretty accurately as long as you don't overthrow the ball. But it gets a lot tougher when you're running and scrambling to the outside and you try to throw that intermediate to deep pass on a run. You're probably going to throw an interception, so you have to be careful with that. And the same setting for the CPU as well, as I mentioned. Pass block, we're doing 99 for the human and 25 for the CPU. Why are we doing that? Well, it's pretty simple. On a Heisman difficulty, the CPU has an advantage in 3 or 4 areas, a great advantage. And depending on that particular rating or area, it's a bit stronger than the others. Well, let me put it like this. Let's choose 4 areas. Number 1, the first area is speed, or the first attribute or rating is speed. The CPU has a slight advantage in the speed area, so we address that using the tackle slider, which we'll get into later. The second area is awareness. The CPU has a slight advantage in awareness, which we don't touch that. We still keep that even with our awareness slider. The reason why we're playing on Heisman is because we want a greater challenge. So even though the CPU has an awareness advantage, we won't try to balance that out. Now keep in mind, the CPU's advantage in awareness is not as great as their advantage in this area, which is block shedding. Well, I'll tell you what, let's put block shedding and strength into the same area. So block shedding and strength is the area where the CPU has a ridiculous advantage on Heisman. So that's why we keep our pass blocking at 99 and their pass blocking at 25, just to find some balance. Wide receiver catching, same philosophy that we use on All-American. The wide receiver catch and traffic rating, which is not really a rating. It's a rating in the later games, but in these games, it's not an actual slider or rating, but it is an effect in the game. So if you lower this to the 50s or the 40s or even the 60s, you're going to find your wide receivers having a hard time holding on to the ball in situations where they're surrounded by defenders or situations where they're being hit. So we want to maximize this for the CPU and the human. Okay, the next area is running back ability. I like this at 99 for both sides because it just opens the game up. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to open the game up. We're trying to replicate what we see on Saturdays with that wide open college football style of play. Now, I do like playing with lower running back ability for fatigue effect, but it just doesn't work as well on Heisman. So we're just going to keep this at 99 for both sides. Run block ability for the human, that's at 99. Same philosophy we're using for the pass block. 99, 25 for the CPU. Real quick, let's jump to human awareness. Now, in my first Heisman video, I had this busted all the way down to 0, and that still works. As a matter of fact, I'm going to switch to that Heisman set or a variation of that set in my current dynasty. I'm going to switch from All-American over to Heisman. So a lot of you guys might like that. The game's probably going to be a bit harder, but I think it might even be more wide open, so we'll see. But as of right now, we've gotten better with the game. So a good setting in that situation would be 50-50 if you want things to be equal. Keep this in mind, people. Be very careful with the awareness slider on Heisman, because once you start doing this, and that, you start seeing some crazy psychic stuff, especially from the CPU. Now, if you don't mind that, if you don't mind linebackers in man coverage running with a wide receiver, only for you to throw the ball behind them to another receiver and for them to stop on a dime and literally jump backwards like they're wearing a Mandalorian jetpack. If y'all don't have a problem with that, y'all do what y'all want to do. As a matter of fact, my man JD706, shout out, bro. He uses 99 awareness in his dynasty, and he also plays on Heisman, and his games look great. I enjoy watching his videos. He does a great job editing those videos, and the game looks good. He plays the 08 game, and the game looks good. Just in my experience with 09, I don't like seeing that psychic stuff just as much as I hate seeing unrealistic knockdowns. That's why we keep our knockdowns real low. So in this situation, I recommend awareness between 50 and 0. The great thing about Heisman is awareness is so good at this difficulty level that even if it's at 0, the players on both sides of the ball play pretty smart. So that's your range from 0 to 50. If you want to make the game more difficult, be aware that you're going to have to deal with a lot of unrealistic read and react. If you want to do something like this, I'm telling you, it's going to look real crazy. But if you're okay with that, and your goal is just to make the game more difficult, you're not really worried about realism or anything like that. Your mindset is, this is a video game. The game's too easy. I need to make it more difficult. Go ahead and do 99 or anything above 50. I don't recommend it personally. All right, knockdowns. We're doing the same thing that we did on All-American. We don't want linebackers and defensive players jumping halfway through the screen to bat down a ball. I despise that, people. Let me tell y'all something, man. Let me get real with y'all. I can't stand watching a playthrough. And I follow a lot of guys that play this game, whether it's 06, 04, 09, 07. And the one thing I hate most is seeing a defender. I think you guys know that animation I'm talking about. When a defender is 1 or 2 steps behind an offensive player. And the ball's strong. The ball's about to drop right in the offensive player's hands. And the defender just jumps straight in the air with one hand and bats the ball down. I can't stand that. You rarely see those in my playthroughs. You rarely see plays like that in my playthroughs. And I believe the reason why is because we keep those knockdowns very low. Now, I have another theory that if you keep knockdowns equal with interceptions will take precedence over knockdowns. So to prevent that, we just put a little juice on there, 5% juice on the knockdowns. Interceptions, turnovers are an issue in this game. That's not a secret. And the great thing is, whether you have this at 0 or 99, you're still going to get picks. If you throw a bad pass straight at a linebacker, he's going to catch that ball 8 out of 10 times. He's going to catch that ball with these sliders. Break block. Now, since the strength on Heisman is so whacked out and so bonkers, we're just going to keep this at 0. We want to control that imbalance as much as possible. So, like I said, we just keep this at 0. We control our offensive line and our offensive and defensive line interactions with the pass block and run block sliders. We do nothing with break block on Heisman. Tackling. Now, what I love about Heisman is even when you keep this tackle slider low, you still get a decent amount of tackles compared to break tackles. You don't get an excessive amount of broken tackles. But what it does is it puts the defense at a slight disadvantage because the offensive players are going to be a bit more explosive. But that's okay. It's going to be a bit easier to hit the corners or to hit the outside. But keep in mind, the defensive awareness is much better at Heisman. So the read and react is going to be much better. So everything balances out. So what we do for the human, since the CPU has a bit of a speed advantage, We give ourselves 50. We give the CPU 40. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing on Heisman. This is version 1.2, folks. 1.2. All right, guys. In conclusion, for the human offense, QB accuracy 35 and 99 all the way down from there. All the way down from there, from pass blocking down to run blocking, 99. For the CPU, 35 QB accuracy, pass blocking 25, 99 wide receiver catching, 99 running back ability, and 25 run blocking. On defense, for the CPU, 50 awareness, but keep in mind, you can play with that. That's where your leeway is going to be. If you want to make the game easier, you want to make the game harder. If you want to make the game even more difficult, you start doing that. But keep in mind, you have to deal with the weird stuff you're going to see on field as well on Heisman. All right. So that's going to be 50 for the CPU, 5 for knockdowns, 0 for interceptions, break block at 0, tackling at 40 for the CPU. Keep in mind, just remember, they have a slight speed advantage. For the human, 50, or you can knock that down to 0. Whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do, that's where your play and leeway is going to be. My preference is between 0 and 50. That's why I draw the line at 50. I don't go any higher than 50 for awareness on either side, CPU or human. 5% knockdowns. I've already explained why we do that. Interception 0. Explain that as well. Break block, we keep that at 0. We're going to control our line interaction strictly through the run block and pass block sliders. Tackling, our slider is a bit lower. I'm sorry, this should be at 50 and the CPU should be at 40. All right. So slight mistake there. So just to go back to CPU, their tackle slider needs to be at 40 and ours is going to be at 50. All these sliders are going to be in the description box. So if I stumble through the video, that's fine. So those are the sliders in conclusion, guys. Let me go back through them again. Human, CPU, boom, offense, defense, CPU, human, right there. There y'all go. CPU, human, offense, human, CPU. Special teams, do it yourself. Do it your doggone self. That's why I stand on special teams. I already have my philosophy behind it. I've explained it in previous videos. Go back and watch them. But special teams are right there. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to episode 4 of the Slider Lab. Really appreciate your time and patience checking this video out. Also want to send a special shout out to TNJ. He stopped by one of my slider videos, liked what he saw, and decided to start NCAA Football 09 Dynasty. Very entertaining guy, very, very entertaining. Seems like a real smart kid as well. I mean no disrespect by calling him a kid, but I'm assuming he's younger than me. But either way, very, very, very cool dude. He's got some great content on his channel. I'm gonna link his channel in the description. But yeah, he's got a great following, and yeah, it's good to see larger channels going back to the PS2 games. I'm a bit biased in that area. I believe in my heart those are the best EA football games ever created. But I respect the opinions of others as well. Also, special shout out to my man, Andy at Expandingman. Go check his channel out. I'm going to link his channel in the description. Very entertaining dynasty he's got going on with his alma mater, Fresno State. So, yeah, we need to start a revolution over here, man. Shout out to my man Al over at Playbook Gamer, still doing his thing with NCAA 09. Great content as always. Let's start a revolution. We need to get a lot of these guys, a lot of these larger channels into this game. That way we can get more of the people playing them again. I'm not going to get on my soapbox and talk about the current state of Madden. Go check out Soft Drink TV. He does a better job than anybody explaining to all of us how trash that game is. Speaking about the current Madden games. So, like I said, that's a matter of opinion as well. But at the end of the day, these games are great and we need more people playing them. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in. I will talk to you soon. Dynasty videos and other content coming soon. Like if you like the video, comment, subscribe. Appreciate all of y'all. Happy New Year. Peace.